Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Curious Crossroads. I'm Doug, and this is my son, Doug, and we are so happy that you joined us today. And I think you're going to be happy, too, because we've got a very, very special guest with us. He knows more about musicians and bands and all the different genres of music than anyone I can think of. He fosters pets and is a big champion of that cause. He's a pretty darn good golfer because he's even won the coveted green jacket at the DFS Invitational Golf Tournament. And he's one of the biggest recreational bicycling advocates that I know of in the entire country. Tom Horita, it's a pleasure to have you on Curious Crossroads.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We always like, before the show starts, we take our guest over to On the Green and ply them with a couple drinks and have them hit a long drive. And you performed admirably for both drinking and driving. That's the only time that's going to sound right, where drinking and driving is okay. What'd you think of On the Green?
Beautiful. Awesome. Yeah.
It is a neat place.
Amazing facility.
Everybody we take there, same reaction. They're like, holy crap.
It is state of the art. It's the best I've seen.
It's surprising. Like, you look at it from the outside, it's like, it's just built into the strip mall, and then you go in, and it's like super high class.
Yep.
The only thing I don't like, it's just me personally, it's me vanity-wise, is it has all those different screens that show your swing. So if you're not right on,
it's like what you said. It's like hearing your voice on a recording, seeing yourself on camera.
Yep.
It's like you think in your head your golf swing looks really good, and then you go there and you're like, oh my God.
It can be pretty brutal.
Well, your swing was not the most horrifying thing in the video, though.
No. What would you say was?
Your face.
Where does golf stand in your life? Is golf a big part of your... I know you got a lot of different things that you like to do.
Huge part. Absolutely. It's as you know, my whole family is big into golf, and it's one of those things that if you can't beat them, join them, I think. So,
and how long ago did your golf career start?
I kind of started kind of late. Probably seriously, I always played, little par threes with my dad when I was a kid, but seriously, probably not until I was 22 or so.
Is that like everybody in your family? Like, when did everybody else start? Like John and Patty and them?
My brothers played more frequently than I did.
Yeah?
When I was young, they were playing. I'd go out and caddy for them every so often, I remember. So they played with my dad at a young age. And then my sister Leslie, I think she played a little bit earlier. And then P and I were the latest because we were kind of anti-golf. We thought it was boring. And
Patty was too?
We were into tennis. Yes. Oh. Yes. So P and Mike and I kind of came into the game about the same time.
So who's got the most hole-in-ones? Like, what's the ranking?
That's definitely...
That's got to be P.
Patty?
P.
And then
she
John...
golfs an awful lot.
She does golf a lot.
Does John just have the one?
John has two.
Yeah, he has
John has two.
He has the most epic one.
Tim?
Does
Tim have any?
Tim has one. Tim's was on a par 4, I think, if I remember the story correctly. The funny part about that one, I always think, is that when he got his hole-in-one and had to buy drinks for everybody, it was an AA tournament up in Duluth, I think.
Are you serious?
And so he just had to buy, like, Diet Cokes for everybody.
That's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
What about Dan?
Dan does not. Leslie does not.
How about your dad? Did he ever get a hole?
No.
I will never forget, though, him winning the DFS low net or low gross.
Yeah.
And won the championship that one year. That was pretty cool.
One of my favorite pictures of my dad is him the night before he had to turn it back in the next year. He brought me into the basement and said, you got to take a picture of me with the trophy. And he has this big, goofy smile on his face. It's a
you
cool
got to send
picture.
that over so
I
we
will
can put that
up.
But we're going to put up a picture of him with the green jacket, too.
Right.
Oh, boy.
So that'll be on there.
It's been a while. Speaking of P, I remember that's the same day when I won the green jacket. P got her first hole-in-one, I believe.
Right.
And then
she had to damper your party.
Yeah. And then she came in and she told my dad that she got a hole-in-one, and my dad patted her on the head and gave her a $5 bill.
What about music? Let's move into music. Okay. I know that music, out of everybody I know, you are either singing, you're playing, you're watching, you're talking about music. In my family, which is kind of sad, we had 2 albums. We had Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass and the Monkees.
Okay.
I like the Monkees.
Yeah. I think you got to have a little bit of push from your parents to get into things, and there was none there. You know, we didn't, there was no, I don't even know. Yeah, we had a phonograph. you know, or a phonograph. I think that's what
That sounds old.
What is a
like
phonograph?
Like a Victrola?
Yeah, we had,
Is that like the thing that plays the album?
yeah, the little turntable.
Okay.
We had a turntable, but there weren't very many albums. And I guess it's partially our fault for just not getting more interested in it, but it was just, we were just never around it.
Yeah.
Is that where it started with you?
Well,
Was that home?
I'm the youngest of 6, so I have 3 older brothers, 2 older sisters. And growing up, they always had music in the basement of my parents' house. Albums. So they had hundreds of albums. So I would go down there.
What about your parents? Were they into it?
They loved music. Yep. They listened to a lot of music. But it was really my siblings who were the ones who had all these albums. So I'd go down there and spin albums and sit in the rocking chair in the old basement and just would lose myself in liner notes and listening to different albums.
Were you part of that competition? I know that your brother John and Chris Abrahamson,
Yep.
they had a competition one year of who could go to the most concerts. And they weren't just bogus concerts of local people. I mean, they were national concerts.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe the prices they were playing. $10, $15.
$7.50, $12, and
Who were some of the bands that they were going to see?
I know.
Did they take you along with that? I know you were the younger brother.
A few times, but John and Chris, they had seen the Eagles at the old Met Stadium, and the Who and ELO and all the old.
He said he used to have posters of all of them.
Yeah.
And he just wished that he would have kept.
And so those guys were like going for $10 a ticket.
Yeah,
That's the same bands.
Yeah.
That's what. Do you remember how many concerts they said that they went
My
to? My
brother had
pretty
a
substantial.
cup that he kept on the dresser, and he would put all his concert tickets. I wish we still had it.
Right.
And he would come home after the concerts, and I was younger, and he would wake me up. We had like a trundle bed that would fold from underneath the.
Right.
And you would click it and it would come up to be level with the other bed.
Right.
And he would come in and hit the lever and the bed would fall down and wake me up and tell me about the concerts.
What are some of the concerts you've been to?
First concert I ever went to was the Commodores at the Carlton Celebrity Room. Remember
Really?
the Carlton Celebrity Room out in Bloomington?
That's not around anymore.
No.
I do remember
It's the Mall
that.
of America, basically.
That was
now.
a great place to go to.
So I saw the Commodores. That was my first concert. And I've seen all of the acts that I have wanted to see more or less.
Commodores, was that Lionel
Richie,
right?
Yep. I've seen, let's see, the Eagles, and I've seen...
I love the Eagles.
Yeah.
We've seen them a few times.
Yeah,
Mom's
I've seen
favorite.
Billy Joel. I've seen Prince. I've seen Bruce Springsteen multiple times. U2.
You saw Prince? Mm-hmm. Where did you see him?
That was during the Purple Rain tour. I've seen him twice, actually. So in like 84, during the Purple Rain tour, when that was a big deal. And then later on, he did a tour back in probably the late 90s that I went to.
Out of all those bands that you went to, the concerts, who was your favorite? Who was the best? Who put on the best
show? I always
show?
love Springsteen.
Really?
He puts on the best show.
And where did you see him at?
A few different places. Some at the old Civic Center and at the old Met Center. I saw him up in Fargo one time, or twice at the Fargo Dome.
Damn.
So I've probably seen
him a lot.
Springsteen probably 8, 10 times.
And he outranks like Prince and those guys
Well,
as far as putting on a show?
then Prince put on a great show, and U2 is always phenomenal in concert. So those are probably the top 3 that but I'll always remember the Commodores.
Were you ever a big...
That was the first.
Were you
Yes.
ever a big First Avenue person?
Not big, First Avenue, but I
Did you
used to
see
go
anybody
there.
there that would be of...
I think the Jets. Do you remember them?
That's a local...
Yeah.
They were local, weren't
Yeah. And some of Prince's like protege bands.
Right.
I never saw Prince there.
they? Right.
Yeah, I wish I would have.
Now, First Avenue is still around. I haven't been there for...
Yeah, a little while back, I think the roof collapsed
It
or
did.
something. I actually had a friend that was there, and I think she got
the
hurt.
ceiling tiles I
Yeah.
think fell down and
And there's another, what's the other concert that's connected to it?
7th
It's-
Street Entrance.
Yeah, 7th Street Entrance. We've seen some of my buddies play there, too. It's like a smaller venue, but that's pretty cool, too.
Yeah.
And it seems like with music, it's all sorts of different genres of music that you like, too.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's
if I put my,
or whoever.
If I put my phone on like random shuffle, you might hear anything from the Minnesota Rouser to Glenn Miller to the Commodores to Taylor Swift or Pink.
Right.
Who's your go-to karaoke?
It's got to be Jim Croce.
Jim Croce.
I got it. I called it.
There you go.
Jim Croce.
Yep.
Superman's
Yep.
cape.
You don't mess around with Jim. Is that
Thanks
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot. You
Is that
screwed
what
me
it's
over.
Yep. Okay.
That's how well we know
This
his
is like
karaoke.
this is like the dating game.
I thought for sure it'd be Sweet Caroline.
No, I think there's been so many times I hear you
Yeah.
sing that song.
Yep.
So do you do karaoke at Shortstop, right?
It's been a while, but yes, I've
Is that
been
where
known
you
to.
is that where you tried that joke?
Yes.
That didn't hit?
It did not hit at all. It was before I was singing a Kenny Rogers song, and
So were you thinking about doing comedy, and then you got up and
no,
said, "I'm
I
going to
asked
do"?
Ray McManus. And Tanya were there that night, and I was with John and Al and Craig Zumwinkle, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to sing Kenny Rogers, The Gambler, but Norm Macdonald just passed away. Do you mind if I tell a joke?" And I won't tell the joke; it's a little off color.
Right.
But I thought it was a funny joke, and I don't think. According to my sister-in-law Allison, she said, "I don't think they heard it quite right." So
She was putting it nicely.
It made me look like really creepy.
All right. Well,
and nobody laughed.
This
It
is
was
your
crickets.
chance to redeem it right now.
So does Ray have stand-up, or is it with you just threw
No,
it in?
it's just
after,
because of Norm.
I threw it in, and then when nobody laughed and it was crickets, I just went right into the song.
He should do an open stage thing. I bet
should.
people would.
Just
You
went
know,
right into the song.
We're talking about Ray
McManus.
Yep.
Owns Shortstop, Sunset. What else does he own?
He owns Shortstop and Fridley Shortstop. So there's one in Coon Rapids, one in Fridley. He
Yep.
owns Sunset Grill. He owns
Chanticleer.
Chanticleer.
Didn't he own
And
something
then-
downtown more? Or I thought he was looking at something one time in Uptown or something like that, or adding a
he was
shortstop there.
looking. And then Tootsie's, but that's with his brother Sean.
He'd be another great guest
Yeah.
to have on board.
Ray
Yeah,
would
I
be.
saw him the one time. He said he'd do it.
Yeah.
Really?
We were talking sports or whatever, and Tom or somebody was like, "You should be on the podcast."
he
He's like,
knows-
"I'll do it. I'll do it."
He knows a lot about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that we really brought you in to talk about, which I just got started riding the bike myself. Got myself an e-bike, which is really nice. It's a bike that has a battery in it, and it gives you a little assist. I've got a 3-level assist, and you have to keep pedaling, the one that I've got, to keep going. But it's just great for somebody getting up, pushing towards 70. It's great for when you're going up those big hills and you just don't have the energy that day.
I've seen a lot of people on e-bikes now.
There
Like
seems to
I'm
be-
over there. It's like everybody has an e-bike. Like
Yeah.
when did everybody
Well, and it's
get an
great
e-bike?
too because especially this year, there's been some wind like you would not believe, and it's nice to just push that button. Now
They pass me all the time. Trust me.
you don't have that. You just are such an avid cyclist.
Yeah.
But where did all that start?
Yeah, I want to
begin
know
with?
where that came from.
Where
or
did
you're
that come
interested in it.
from?
Well, I've always loved riding bikes from when I was a kid, like most kids did. And I remember about 20 years ago, I had a buddy who was kind of into biking, and I bought a semi-nice Trek bike. And I remember my goal was to do 1,000 miles in one summer.
At the start of your cycling?
Yeah.
When was this? How old?
This must have been 25 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So so I had this bike, and so I accomplished my goal of 1,000. Back at the time, I thought that was an amazing goal. So I did 1,000 miles, and never duplicated that, and kind of got away from biking for quite a long time until about maybe 7 years ago. And I personally thought, well, I'm not as active as I used to be. I probably should do something besides just walking golf courses,
Yep.
or
riding carts.
riding golf courses.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I've always loved biking. I'm going to buy a bike. So I bought a bike, kind of got into it a little bit, and then some buddies of mine, we kind of got the bug together, and kind of ever since then we've all been kind of crazy about it.
Is that
Probably.
Willard? Is that one of the
Willard
buddies?
and Smiley?
Was he right at the start with you then?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
How
Yeah.
many bikes have you gone through since? Have you gone
I've
through?
only
I mean,
been
is there a
through.
lot of it?
This is only my second one since I've
Really?
got- yeah.
So you found it and you liked it.
I love
and-
my current bike. So
And what do you look for in a bike? I mean, when you're going to start taking it seriously, where you're doing trips like what you did last week, where what was it, Grand Portage?
Grand Portage to Chippewa Falls.
I mean, those are some pretty big adventures. So you've got to have a bike that is going to go the distance.
Yeah, I have a road bike. It's a carbon fiber road bike. It's a Cannondale. that I've had
Without
for
a battery.
Without a battery. Nothing. Not there's anything wrong with that.
No, not that there's anything wrong with that.
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld.
Not that there's anything
Yep.
wrong with that.
So so I just have a carbon fiber road bike. It's about 7 years old.
Carbon fiber, is that lighter
It's
then?
lighter,
Right.
strong. Yeah, pretty good over bumps.
What's the range if you're getting into a nicer bike to do serious cycling? What type of price range are you looking at for a bike?
I would say you can spend $15,000-$20,000 on a bike, believe it or not.
Seriously?
Like the Tour de France dudes are,
Right.
those bikes are $15,000-$20,000.
What makes that so
It's just
expensive?
just the design,
mechanics of it.
Mechanics. It has wireless shifting, and it has all carbon fiber, including the
wild.
wheels, and everything is carbon fiber. Probably the handle, everything's carbon fiber, so they are light and fast.
Wireless shifting, so it's
Meaning
done
it's
with a
just
computer?
battery. Yeah, it's just battery operated. So
Right.
you just click a button and it shifts. Anyway, but you can get a decent road bike for. You can get a bike for $1,000. It'll certainly serve your purposes.
Right.
Mine's somewhere in the middle,
Right.
on the lower end of the middle, I would say.
When do you think you have to get another bike, or like how often do you got to get a new bike, or does it last pretty much as long as you need it?
I take care of mine pretty.
Is
pretty
it like your
good.
best friend? I mean,
It
it's
is.
like a buddy.
It is.
you know?
Yes. It's almost my bike's almost personal to me.
Right.
We've been through a lot
Oh, I
together.
can see it. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I haven't named it yet.
Right.
I need a name for my bike, so
Let's name it right now.
I feel I should have a name for it.
You know,
We'll think about that.
what about, I was going to ask as far as the seats on a bike. Mm-hmm. I don't get this. I made sure that the e-bike that I got,
Yeah.
I sound so old, that it had a great big fat farmer seat on it. Why do they have those little tiny skinny seats that ride right up your butt when
But
you're...
believe it or not, for like long distance riding,
That's more
the
comfortable.
cushy seats are going to work against you. There's just too much friction. You want a hard, narrow seat.
And you do eventually get used to that.
Your sit bones, your butt adjusts, and
build calluses.
there's a acronym. There's an acronym. I'll let you guys figure out the acronym, but it's time in the saddle. That is the only thing you can do, and if you do enough of that, your sit bones will adjust. You don't. People think you like I have calluses all over my butt, and it's not that. It's just my sit bones are
Just
adjusted.
start to form to your seat.
Yeah, and now I
So
can
your
ride,
body like mutates.
pretty much. Yeah, so I can ride. I can ride 100 miles a day, and it doesn't bother me at all.
Are you able to, do you track, and I think you do, how many miles you go in a year?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do last year?
I did about 5,300.
5,300.
Yeah. Which sounds like a lot.
Right.
And it is a lot.
Right.
But I know people or have heard of people who do 10, 15,000 miles a year. They're probably retired or
That is crazy though when you think about how
work
many
full-time.
miles it is like from here to Florida. I think it's like 2,000 or
Yeah.
something. So you're going there and
There
back,
and back.
in a year.
last year I did that kind of math, which was kind of interesting, just for the heck of it. And I figured my riding of 5,200 miles was like from here to Moscow.
Oh,
Wow.
it is weird when you think
Yeah,
of it like
when you
that.
think of it
That's
in
like
those
a good
terms.
image of it.
Yeah.
Now, we see you anywhere and everywhere. I mean, one week you're here, one week you're there. Where are some of the different places that you've been where you've just taken your, like the past weekend, again, it was Grand
Portage on
Grand
the Canadian,
Portage.
Canadian border, down Highway 61, the North Shore, over to Superior, Wisconsin, then down through north and central Wisconsin to Chippewa Falls.
What criteria do you have to go somewhere? Just that you haven't been there before, or
I
you
just
like going there?
North Shore
or-
is beautiful. I love the North Shore, and I thought,
have you been there before?
Yeah.
Or have you, I mean,
Yeah,
on,
it's-
on bike?
No, I have not.
That was the
Duluth,
first on bike.
Duluth, but not anywhere past Duluth.
We should plug that your brother Dan and Connie.
Dan and Connie were
followed along as
my
your-
support team, and
Right.
it was awesome. So they were
They
there
like
if I
hand you the
needed them.
water and stuff.
Well, they didn't do. Yeah, they didn't do that.
They got
They
like
weren't
a little
riding. They
bottle.
weren't riding next to me in the, in the RV. But they were there if I needed them, which I didn't, thankfully.
Right.
But then they would get to the campsite, and I'd have a spot to go to and camp for the night, and then
That sounds fun.
yeah,
That sounds like a cool trip.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Do you remember when you this must have been like 2 or 3 years ago when you biked down to Red Wing
yeah.
and how hot it was?
Yes.
Wasn't it just like
Yes.
and didn't you guys
And
We
come
came
and
to
saved them?
Doug-
save them.
Was that 150 miles or
No,
something?
that was only like 75.
Really? I
80
would have thought it'd be
miles.
more
Yeah.
than that.
And you were about 5 miles away from.
I was probably
distance.
10 miles
10
away,
miles?
but I was going between Hastings and Red Wing on that little bypass, and there wasn't a whole lot. There was no convenience stores, and I was out of water. It was 100 degrees.
It was hot. I
Yes.
remember how hot it was.
And I talked
Couldn't believe he
to
was
talked
doing
to you
it.
guys, and I said,
Yeah.
"Where are you guys?"
Want to meet up?
And I remember they said, well, we're not that close. And I said, okay, thanks. I'll just see you in a bit. And all of a sudden they call me back. I says, wait a minute. You need us? And I said, well, water would be nice. And they came up and met me at where 317 or whatever it is. It hits
right
61.
You look at Mom and you're like, I think that's a cry for help.
He might be in some distress.
I think he
Well, and then
needs
we
us.
screwed up because you guys aren't normally drinking or pop. You're looking for water. We didn't have any water, but we had ice cold pop.
Yes,
So,
and it was a
take the
godsend
sugar.
to save me.
Right.
And then I did finish. You said you're technically kind of in Red Wing. You can just get in the car. And I said, no, I'll finish from here.
Yeah. I tried to convince him to get in, and he wouldn't. Ragbrai?
Yeah, let's go to Ragbrai. So you do that every year, right?
Mhm.
Ragbrai.
I think this will be my 7th Ragbrai.
And then who's your team? Give your team a shout out or the people that you go with.
We have a team. We kind of have a core group, and then we every year there's some different people, but there's a core group. It's me, two of my buddies, Willard and Smiley, that we went to high school at Coon Rapids together, graduated in different years, but we went to high school together. And then my ex-girlfriend's dad, John Nielsen, and then our driver, who was the MVP of our team, Larry. So that's kind of our core 5.
And how old is John Nielsen? He's older
Nielsen
too, isn't he?
I think, I hope you're not listening, John. I think he's 77. It's amazing.
He's in the greatest shape.
Yes, he's...
It just goes to show you, anybody that stays in shape can, I mean, it's just what he is able to do.
He's kind of an inspiration.
But it's a
for
good
all
group
of
of guys that
Yes.
you're with. And then you also brought into the fold some ladies that...
We have had ladies in the past. Last year we had 3 that Willard's wife knew. So kind of like a second, couple times removed from us. And they said, well, we've always wanted to try this Ragbrai. So they joined us for the last year and the year before. And then we've had other people, friends, Tom Omscheid and
Rick Bloom.
Rick Bloom and
They'll
Mary
go
Bloom.
apart. They don't do the whole
Rick
thing.
and Mary Bloom did 3 days one year, and Rick did 3 days by himself with us another year.
I'm trying to do it at some point.
Yes.
I told you I'd do it at some point.
You don't have to do the whole thing.
Do people do it that have e-bikes?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Hey, you could do it.
It's got to be a little bit of a bummer. You're just working your butt off in that wind, and here comes a little e-bike.
There's a very
by.
small segment, I'd say less than 1% of people on Ragbrai that kind of get irritated with the e-bikers.
Right.
And to me, it's like, God bless them. It's sitting on the sofa. So if that's the way you want it, you have to ride a bike. Why not?
Do you think it's gonna keep shifting to e-bikes like more and more?
Not Ragbrai.
Not Ragbrai.
No, Ragbrai is. I think most people do it because it is quite a.
They want
challenge.
to, yeah.
And you've got what does there's a guy with a trailer. What does he do?
So Larry is our
Larry.
driver, and he's from Sigourney, Iowa. He's a friend of Smiley's. Anyway, he's our driver. So Smiley lives down in by Tyler, Texas, down by Dallas, kind of, and he drives up with his pickup truck.
Right.
And we rent a U-Haul, and then he goes to Larry's house, and we basically then go to the start town, and Larry is our support driver every day. So he sets up our camp for us. So when we get into camp on the overnight town every night, our camp is set up for us after a long day of riding.
Because you don't want to be setting up
cooler of
tents
beer and our big canopy, our 12x12 canopy that we hang out under after the ride, with a cooler full of beer. Any snacks in the morning, he'll say, "What do you guys need today?"
That sounds
we
so
need
fun.
how about a case of beer and a bottle of vodka and some chips and pretzels and maybe some bananas and
We were watching a
maybe
video.
some Gatorade.
We were watching a video, and it actually said that Ragbrai is the only cycling event where you can actually gain weight.
Yes, yes.
Well,
That's kind of the running
they
joke.
put it a good way if you're like trying to understand what it is. It's kind of like a county fair on wheels.
It's
kind of
like
a thing.
the State Fair meets the Tour de France meets Woodstock,
Right.
kind of, because it's
Right.
a lot of music and live music and
I was
a
saying
lot of
too,
food and
it's like Sturgis
yeah,
for like
yeah,
bicycle riders. Only like people seem to be more tame.
yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
But some
That's
people
a good
can
comparison.
get kind of wild though on that.
I think Ragbrai, since I've been doing it, isn't. I've heard the stories of the old days,
oh, it's
probably before cell phones, where it got a little wild.
Well, it still gets wild, doesn't it? I mean, judging from what we were seeing.
Yeah, and we have fun.
But
there's good
it's
concerts and
good,
good music and
harmless fun.
Yes, good harmless.
the other
fun.
thing I like too is like they showed like when Ragbrai is going on in Iowa, just like the people that like live in the houses and stuff are like really welcoming. Like,
Yes.
come on in, man.
letting
Get some
people
food.
use their swimming pool.
That looks awesome. That just looks like such a cool.
The nicest people in the world. And we ideally, so there's common campgrounds that are open to the masses. And keep in mind, there's upwards of 15,000 people that do Ragbrai every year.
Yeah, they said 20,000.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So camping in the overnight towns is just it looks like a refugee camp. It's just, as far as the eye can see is tents. We like to try to get host families. Larry is probably working on that as we speak. Tries to get host families so that they will allow you to camp in their yard. It doesn't mean we're sleeping in their house, but we can camp in their yard. We can use their showers and bathrooms and electricity. And we've had many hosts when we get there. They'll have
how do you find those
full of beer.
Hosts?
There's through the city website, I think, and there's places where you can, or through Ragbrai, you can put your name out there and say we'd love to find a host.
And are you having to pay for that, or are they just?
It didn't used to be. I think there's a small fee,
right?
But it's well worth it.
Right.
That's so cool. Like that whole atmosphere of it.
Yeah,
is just like a cool thing.
What was it?
Get people together.
It was last year that the heat was so bad. I mean, is that the worst year that you've seen as far as heat?
By far.
What are we talking?
There were 2 days, Thursday and Friday last year, I believe. The heat indexes were like over 110 degrees for 2 days, and the air temp was probably right around 100, 102. It was hilly and steamy, hot, humid, windy. It was brutal.
But you kept going.
We kept going.
Did your whole group keep going? Or was there some people that dropped out?
A couple people took a day off. But
are they trying to keep all you guys hydrated? I mean, are the people offering water and
there's
spraying you down?
Always you ride into these towns and people have their sprinklers out and hoses and spraying you down, or the city will have the fire hydrants spraying water and handing out free water. There's plenty of places to eat and drink.
Did you see some attrition as far as people dropping out?
Last year, for sure.
They're just saying, I can't do this.
Full. Yeah, it was a tough one.
The route itself, I mean, how many miles is it?
It usually averages, last year was 500, so it was a long one. And this is over 7 days.
And there's how many people on an average?
15 to 20,000. Last year was the 50th anniversary of Ragbrai, though, so it was a big one. And they went through the bigger towns. They tried to recreate the original route. And the estimates for the Wednesday, I think it was, we went into Des Moines, so the bigger town. They said there might have been 100,000 riders.
Wow.
Yeah, they were going to try to break the Guinness Book of World Record for riders in one ride, but Guinness's criteria were tough, so they just...
What do people do that want to go to as far as traffic is concerned? How do they just say, people, you might as well stay home because you're not going to be on the road?
The roads are technically open to all traffic, but these are all county and country roads, and
so they're not traveled a lot.
So they're not traveled a lot in general, but also I think it's such a big deal in Iowa that the people that live, they just know.
They know. Stay home.
Yeah. So you'll see a random poor person in a car with thousands of riders that have to ride their car 5 miles an hour.
They don't have you like in one lane and
you
cars
have you have both lanes at Ragbrai. So the roads are technically open, but there's the most common vehicles you'll see are probably ambulances.
Right.
Is it like Moses where they'll like clear out and like let the car go down the middle?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much like the Red Sea.
Yeah.
The most common vehicles you'll see are ambulances, meaning there's a lot of...
There's crashes. Definitely crashes.
Heat stroke,
people in some kind of distress.
Right.
So I think that's part of when you sign up for Ragbrai officially, because there's people that do it on their own, kind of renegades that don't actually pay to sign up, but then you forfeit your right to technically, the ambulance ride and the medical will be kind of on Ragbrai. So we had a few years back, we had a buddy of ours that did Ragbrai for the first time from the UK, and he had only time anybody on our team has crashed, but he had a horrendous crash.
Really?
Yeah, probably going. We don't know because he doesn't remember, and we weren't around him. But
oh, geez,
he was part of your team then.
Yeah. Yep.
You guys don't stay together.
It's kind of
Sometimes
hard.
you get separated.
You get separated for sure. It's
right.
Inevitable. But he crashed, probably going downhill, probably 30, 35 miles an hour, and he was a mess.
Something came out. dirt.
Probably he might have hit a crack the wrong way,
Right.
You know, a pothole or something, or who knows.
Did he
doesn't remember.
Did he have to be air backed out or anything?
He had to be. They had to end up bringing him to. This was, I think, was it in Sigourney, Iowa? They had to ride him up to University of Iowa, to the hospital there. And he had, I don't remember the exact, but he had major concussion and lacerations and a broken neck and ribs, and he was a mess.
Have you not to be grotesque, but have you witnessed any accidents where you've seen people?
They're not fun to watch.
Right.
If they're high speed.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost inevitable every year. Every day you will hear the ambulance rushing by, and then you might come across the scene where somebody's on the ground in a, head stabilized.
How about you yourself? Have you had any?
Nothing major, knock on wood.
Yeah.
My crashes have been more the embarrassing type, like, most of us clip in, so it's like bindings.
Right.
And when you first get clip in pedals, everybody's done it, but you'll be at a stop sign, you kind of forget, and you'll just tip over.
Because you're
and you're still clipped in.
What about as far as flat tires? I look at my e-bike, which has kind of got the same sprocket and stuff like that, but it looks like it would be a hell of a job to have to change a flat tire out on the road. I mean, it looks like that's definitely a thing you'd want to bring into a shop or something. How do you handle that on the road?
We keep, anybody who's serious about cycling keeps a saddlebag with a spare tube, and CO2 and a pump. Nobody's changed more flat tires than I have.
Are you able to change a flat tire without actually taking the wheel off?
No.
So you have to take that off.
You got to take the wheel off. The front wheel is easy. The back tire is more of a pain because
with
of the chain
all the gears and all that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. How can you?
And you just do it.
Have you had many back tire ones?
It's almost always the back tire.
How long?
Really?
How long?
That's where your weight is. So if you hit a tack in the road, the back tire with all your weight on the back is gonna. Yeah, it's 90% of flats are the back tire.
How long would that take to change out a back tire?
15 minutes.
Oh, that's
Not bad.
great.
Front tire you can probably do in 5 minutes.
Is that where the guy that's following along, does he change the tires for you, or do you have to do that?
Like a
No, he does
like
not
a
do that.
NASCAR team. He just comes in.
But there is, at Ragbrai, there is the Air Force cycling team. They're like the VIPs of Ragbrai, and so it's literally the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
And they have the Air Force cycling team, and they must have probably a couple hundred every year. And they all have their cool, bike jerseys and stuff, so you can see them. And I think they're called the Angels of the Road or Angels of the Highway or something is kind of their moniker. And their whole thing is they will break up into groups of 2 and just kind of alternate their leaving times, their depart times, so that they are spread throughout the course in any given day. And anybody who has a mechanical problem, if you're on the side of the road, do you need help? And you'll stop, and they'll change your tire, they'll fix your chain,
Cool.
they'll do anything. Yeah,
That's great.
and and they're awesome. They're amazing.
That's very neat.
I think sometimes the women on Ragbrai intentionally try to have a mechanical so that the stud Air Force dudes will come and help them. But there's women that on the Air Force team
Right.
too, and they're just awesome.
So what's the name of your team?
Doggone Cycling.
Doggone Cycling
It's a
Team.
neat logo.
Yeah, well, Junior was the creative force behind that.
Yeah, that was fun. We
It was
worked on
fun.
it together.
We
and we came up
we worked
with it.
for quite a while on that one.
What's the significance of doggone?
You need it. There's Ragbrai has all these cycling teams. There are hundreds and hundreds of cycling teams. Some of them big, some of them small like ours. A lot of them have their own team buses, like a converted school bus, and they'll have 30, 40 riders.
Oh, that's actually dope. That's cool.
I mean, you see them all over the place, and they're just painted, with all these crazy colors with their team names and all that. So we always wanted a team name, and so it's kind of a long story, but a few years ago, Smiley and I were at a bar, and they have those little crane games in a bar during Ragbrai where you win.
Pick up stuff?
Yeah.
Yep.
And there was a stuffed animal that I won. It was a dog. It was just a little white, like a boxer or something, his dog with a cape on it. And I thought, that's kind of cool. I says, that'd be we should name this dog. So we're at the bar talking to some other teams, and I had it standing up on a pool table, and the dog tipped over. So somebody on one of the teams says we should name him Tipsy. And then somehow, I don't know how exactly, but we ended up calling him Tipsy Butt Sniffer because dogs are butt sniffers, right? So he was kind of our, by default, kind of our, and I mounted him on my bike for the rest of Ragbrai, and he was kind of our mascot.
The honorary mascot.
And so that was kind of the thought of, well, we all kind of love dogs and all that, so we kind of brainstormed for different team names. I suggested Team Tipsy Butt Sniffer, but that wasn't accepted.
wonder why.
It didn't catch on.
Yeah.
Tipsy Butt
So
Sniffer.
somehow we came up with Doggone.
Right.
So we got our team name, and we said, well, if we have a team name, we've got to have jerseys and all. So I worked with Junior, and we, over the course of one spring, over the course of a few months, it's kind of funny looking back in my phone to our first iteration of what you had came up with to what we ended up with.
Yeah, it's cool to see it evolve.
So
what's with forward on the sleeve? What's that?
That's a funny story. Forks forward.
Forks forward.
Tom Horita, I hope you're not listening. One of our first Ragbrais, he has a flat handlebar bike, like a hybrid bike. It doesn't have the curved handlebars.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's riding his bike, and some dude comes up next to him and says, "Hey, how's it going?" And Tom's like, "Good." I says, "How do you like Ragbrai?" It's great. He says, "How's your bike?" It's good. He says, "Is it kind of hard to turn?" And he says, "Yeah, it kind of is." He says, "Your fork's on backwards, dude."
Are you kidding me?
I don't know how it's even possible. It wouldn't be on a road bike, but his fork was on
You
backwards.
guys couldn't tell either. I mean, I suppose you never just.
We probably weren't paying attention,
right?
So
and the fork is like the handles.
It's
or?
the front,
the front part that has the tire on it.
Yeah.
So did he literally just have to turn it around, or did he have to?
I think so. Something.
That is funny.
And
what are the odds of that?
So we've been giving him some flack for that ever since. So when Smiley and I were designing the jersey, we decided we wanted forks forward as a little nod to his.
It's like a little Easter egg.
It was pretty funny.
What's your favorite town in Ragbrai when you're doing Ragbrai?
Boy, that is a toughie. One town that sticks out to me from our very first Ragbrai was Clear Lake, Iowa. That was really cool. It's right on the lake. When we rode into town, most towns are like this, but they just had people cheering and, urging you on and congratulating you, and you're almost done. And it was so cool to see the people of the town, because when you, along the route, especially when you're leaving towns or coming into towns, it's a big event for that town. And you'll have people in lawn chairs, and you'll go past like a senior home, and all the
nice.
senior citizens are out there watching you,
neat.
and it's just amazing. It's very cool.
How about your favorite meal or food?
Oh boy, that is a good one.
Do you guys cook all your own?
Any pork in pork chops and are always good.
Are you cooking your own meals, or are you talking
very
about
rarely.
restaurants?
We bring there's always food in restaurants and food trucks along the way and food booths. We do bring like a Blackstone. I think the last couple of years we've used it once for dinner, like for burgers and brats, that kind of thing. Probably should use it more often, but there's so much food. But pork chops are always good in Iowa.
So I thought it was kind of interesting when you mentioned that when you are biking with your team, you're not necessarily staying together. You're not drafting each other. You could conceivably be 2 miles ahead of.
Yep.
Do you normally have somebody that you're partnering with? Or
usually you're probably with at least one other person.
At least one other person.
Yeah, you're probably going at the same pace on that day. And we've kind of got in a pretty good rhythm of when you get to the next town where it's crowded and you got to get off and walk your bike, pull over to the left and wait for anybody behind you if you want to get together and have a beer or a bite to eat.
And I suppose the reason for that would be is there's different skill levels. Some people are just going slower, and others want to just go a little faster.
Yep. And you just might get behind a slower group. I mean, there's thousands of riders on you're always kind of drafting off somebody because you're there's always people.
Where would you rather be, in the front, middle, or back of a pack? Is there a better?
Well, behind somebody's always good, so you can draft off of them.
Right.
So that helps a lot. You can go much, much faster if you're drafting off a group of cyclists.
Right.
But whatever. It kind of is what it is. You take it as it comes, and you go at your own pace. It's not a race. It's a ride. So you have all day long to get from point A to point B. So
I think that's worth repeating. It's not a race.
Yeah.
It's a ride.
Yep. It's a recreational bike race. It's the largest, oldest recreational bike ride in the world.
Right.
Started in 1973.
73.
50 years?
last year was the 50th. They had one break for COVID, so last year was the 50th. So this year is Ragbrai 51.
And it was two newspaper
reporters.
guys?
Two reporters from the Des Moines Register who wanted to ride their bikes across Iowa, got this crazy idea to ride their bikes across Iowa and report about the people they meet and their experiences along the way. And when they showed up at the start town in that year, wherever it was, Sioux City or something, there were a few hundred people that were going to join them, and they did.
Do you know if those guys are still around?
No, they both, I think it's John Karras and Donald Calls, they're both passed away. Yeah. But they, and then they did it, they thought that worked out really good. We're going to try it for another year. So they did, and then it just kind of blossomed from there into what it is today.
Very cool.
So it stands for, it's Ragbrai, it's an acronym. The Des Moines Register is the big newspaper in Iowa.
Right.
So it's the Register's annual Great Bike Ride Across Iowa.
Wow.
Damn,
Ragbrai.
that's good. I was going to test him on that.
Yep. Yep.
What was the costume question that you were going to ask?
Just the craziest costume you've seen.
What people are wearing costumes?
Oh yeah.
Well, they're really.
You see, there's one group, two guys, and they're kind of legendary on Ragbrai. You see them every year. I got pictures of them, and they wear American flags like for capes, and red, white, and blue Speedos.
And that's it.
That's it. But they're doing it. They raise
America.
money. They raise money for a charity.
Oh, cool.
You don't wear a costume. I mean, you're wearing your
our
colors.
bike jerseys.
Yeah,
Yep,
right.
Yep. But you see everything and everybody and every kind of bike. I've seen unicycles doing the entire thing.
Yeah, I did see that when I looked up videos. There's
The
people on
old,
unicycles.
you know, those old those bikes are called penny farthings, or the big
like
front
a big,
wheel, tiny.
front one.
Yeah, you see those. You see
They're not doing the whole trip on those. On a unicycle, they're doing the whole.
Yes, there was one dude I saw last year who did the entire ride riding his bike backwards, meaning he sat on the handlebars looking the wrong way and pedaled. Yeah, he sat on the handlebars. It was a flat bar bike. He sat on and did the whole thing.
Jeez.
Riding backwards. So
should get a world record out of it or something.
He had to look over his shoulder to see where he was going. So you see everything. You see rollerbladers.
Seems very uncomfortable.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it
But
does.
it's an achievement,
how many miles
though.
is it?
It's anywhere from 440, probably average 440, 450.
So he's
Over
doing that
70.
whole thing
Yeah, so,
backwards.
60,
we're going to
70
have to
miles.
see if we can find some video on that because I'd
Yeah,
love to put that up.
It's crazy. I think he's from Alaska, and that's just how he rides his bike.
What's the furthest distance for one day that they make you go for during
2 years ago, we did 105.
105 miles?
There's every year there is a Century Day where you can, if there's an 85-mile day, say one day, they'll do an alternate route where you can make it a full 100 miles.
Right.
But this one was mandatory. The one a couple years ago. We had to do
the
it.
route is all downhill too, right? I mean, you're not having any hills or.
It's the biggest misconception about Iowa is like, well, at least it's Iowa,
flat.
so it's flat.
Yes.
And trust me, anybody who's done Ragbrai is not flat.
Really?
Far
So it'll
from
beat
flat.
you up a little bit.
It'll beat you up. This year's the hilliest Ragbrai.
Oh, they're changing the route every year?
It changes every year.
Oh, I didn't know
It
that.
changes
Oh, I
every
thought
year.
it was the same.
Yep. So they
So
typically-
different towns too then?
Yep, different start towns, different end towns. It's the tradition technically is you start on a city. It's always on the west side of Iowa, the Missouri River. That's the western border of Iowa. You dip your back tire into the Missouri River, ride for 7 days across Iowa, and then when you get to the east side of Iowa, which is the Mississippi River, you dip your front tire in the Mississippi.
That's cool.
Kind of symbolic.
Very cool.
But yeah, they changed the route. They changed the route basically north, central, and southern route. This year it's a southern route, which southern Iowa is a little hillier.
I think you've been a great advocate for
Yeah.
Ragbrai.
Oh my God.
Everybody-
For bicycling
You've
in
done
general.
it justice.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, I think everybody anybody who, it's kind of hard to explain Ragbrai until you experience it.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody can do it. There is a dude this year doing it. He's 97 years old. And
Wow.
you'll see 5-year-old kids with their dad on a tandem bike.
That
So
is
anybody,
really neat.
it's a ride, not a race. You can go at your own pace. You can walk up hills if you have to.
And you don't even have to do the whole
And you don't have
thing
to do
if
the
you
whole
don't
thing.
want
You
to.
can do one day. You can
Do
do
you have to register?
Technically, yes, you have to register. And it all goes to the Ragbrai to put it on. It's a big
What's the
endeavor.
fee if you did?
This year, I believe it was it's gone up a fair amount in the last couple of years. I think it was about $200.
Right.
But that all goes towards it takes a lot to put on Ragbrai.
Do you think there's people that just kind of sneak in?
Oh, there's all
or
kinds of renegades that just
Are you
come in
supposed to
for
be
it.
wearing a band or something?
You got a band, yep.
Right.
For your bike and and that allows you all the services for Ragbrai.
Right.
If you don't want to finish a day and you put your bike on the side of the road, turn it upside down, the sag wagon will come and pick you up.
Oh, okay.
And bring you to the end town. If you don't register, you don't have the bracelet, they technically won't do that for you.
And again, where does the money go for that type of thing?
It just goes. I mean, they have to work with the local communities.
Right, just the logistics.
Renting porta potties, for instance, has got to be unbelievable. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. They work with the Iowa State Patrol because they monitor all the intersections, which is pretty cool. That you come to a big intersection on 2 county roads, and the Iowa State Patrol will be there. Music blaring on loudspeakers for you. It's just awesome. So it's a whole statewide. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest things. I would say the Iowa State Fair and Iowa football and Ragbrai are probably 3 of the biggest things in Ragbrai.
Why don't you start something in Minnesota, like a Minnesota Ragbrai?
Would you guys do it?
I would do it if you started.
Okay.
We
he says, can you just imagine?
Let's start with like 50
you'd
people.
Have to have 500 people that would.
Yeah, but you start small.
Organize.
Start small.
That would be pretty
all
cool.
you need is a group of people and a driver.
I could see
and you're
you
good to
if
go.
anybody could get something.
Yeah,
I
honestly could see you rallying people together and doing a Minnesota.
Absolutely.
You'd have to come up with a Ragbrai thing,
Right.
but
Maybe we can do it in conjunction. We all ride our bikes down to Red Wing.
Right.
that's how it starts.
And then we get our 45 people that do Red Wing, and we all ride down.
And we do
How many
with
miles is that
golf
to Red
clubs
Wing?
on our back.
From Blaine, I think it was about 75 miles.
See,
we could split it into a couple days.
See, my e-bike is only good for 40 miles. So
We'll go halfway.
yeah, we'll go halfway.
That'd be the tradition, though. We ride down with our golf bags on our back.
Yes, that would be a requirement.
And it's just like a thing of like
that would be hilarious.
Cyclists that are going golfing in Red Wing.
We
And
might
that's how it
need
started.
Larry to come up and be our driver to carry all our clubs. And he's a golfer, so he would probably gladly do that for us.
Yes.
Should we do the end it up with the rapid questions?
Rapid questions.
Oh, boy.
If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To eat without ever getting full.
If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
Scotland.
What's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Probably my bike ride around Lake Tahoe.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
My dad always lived by the golden rule, so treat others how you want to be treated.
What's your favorite movie?
I'm going to say Saving Private Ryan.
If you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
To improve the treatment of wildlife and nature and the animals.
Well, Tom, it has been a pleasure having you on our show. We will look forward to having you back again, maybe after Ragbrai.
Assuming
Yeah, maybe we'll do
have another whole new segment.
Assuming I survive it, but I'm hoping I will.
Yeah, you can come back with some stories and we'll do like a post Ragbrai show.
That'd be fun.
That'd be good.
That'd be good.
That'd be fun.
Hey, thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
And speaking of Tom, this episode is brought to you by Depends Men's Underwear. Stay confident and comfortable all day with Depends Men's Underwear.
We want to mention the Summerfield Amphitheater in St. Michael. If you're looking for a great place to go for an outdoor concert, make sure that you check out Summerfield Amphitheater in St. Michael. And also a big thanks to our friends at On the Green. They are a wonderful place to go if you're just looking. Well, a good place to go right now if it's raining out.
Or if it's too hot out. Sometimes it gets really hot.
If it's too hot. So there's a lot of good reasons. If you want to fix your game, I don't know how many people have gone over there because all of a sudden they lost their swing, which happens, or they lost whatever. They're able to go over there and check out their game. And
or just sit down, have a beer, get some food.
That's right. That's the other big
thing.
It's a restaurant. People don't realize they have a nice menu. They've got the alcohol and
big screen TVs, pool tables, darts. So yeah, it's more than just like a golf simulator place. It's a hangout bar restaurant.
Yep. So that's about it. Don't forget to subscribe. How easy is it to subscribe?
You just want to, right underneath the video, there's a button that says subscribe. Otherwise, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, too, on the video, you can click that, and that'll also subscribe you.
All right. Have a good day.
Have a good life.